I've been posting videos on YouTube since June 2022, and from the beginning of this channel, I occasionally made videos about privacy and surveillance. In June of this year, I decided to focus a lot more of my videos on topics related to protecting your privacy from government and corporate surveillance, and something incredible happened. Over the past 5 months, my channel has exploded. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. I read and respond to as many comments as I can, and over the past 5 months, I have read literally thousands of your comments. I also wanted to meet and talk with as many of you as possible in person, so in July of this year, I launched my Brushfires of Freedom Tour. Over the past 5 months, I have met hundreds of you at 12 live events across 10 states, and I am already working on a much larger tour schedule for 2026 that will include events in other countries. My point in sharing all of this is to assure you that you are not alone. You have spoken, and I have heard you. As divided as people in the United States and other countries are right now on so many political and social issues, there is one thing that we, the people, are absolutely united on, and that is our belief that government and corporate surveillance is out of control and must be reined in. I have received emails from people who self-identify as socialist and from people who tell me that they are from the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. As much as those two groups disagree on most issues, they all tell me they are sick and tired of all the surveillance. But most people who email me don't even mention their political leanings because they are not political activists. They are just good-hearted, honest, ordinary people from all walks of life. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, young and old, men and women, straight and LGBT. Everyone is sick and tired of living in a surveillance state where people like Police Sergeant Jamie Milliman intimidate and harass citizens by saying things like,
"You know we have cameras in that town and you can't get a breath of fresh air in or out of that place without us knowing, correct?"
I want to be able to get a breath of fresh air without some Muppet feeling entitled to record me, without my consent. And I know that you do too. So in this video, I'm going to give you 3 legal and effective ways to push back on mass surveillance. I am Dr. John Padfield, an engineer turned state representative turned business professor, and this is Business Reform, where we discuss issues at the intersection of business, technology, and society. Of the 3 ways I'm going to show you to fight back against mass surveillance, the first one allows you to remain anonymous, and it can easily be done by anyone with a smartphone. The second way is even more effective, but it requires you to sacrifice your anonymity, so I am calling it Only for the Brave. The third way is also legal, and I believe it is the most effective, but you may make enemies using it, so I am calling it Only for the Bold. If you are worried about getting your name put on a list, you may want to skip the third method I'm going to show you in this video. But as I shared in a recent video, my hope is that so many people will stand up and speak up that it will make the people creating those lists rethink their life decisions. Now, let's discuss the first way anyone with a smartphone can legally and effectively fight back against mass surveillance. Over the past few years, Flock Safety has installed more than 80,000 AI-powered license plate cameras across the United States. Most of these 80,000 cameras were paid for by law enforcement using our tax dollars, but some were also paid for by big business, and others were paid for by the president of your homeowners association. These cameras were all installed because cameras prevent crime. That is why nobody has ever seen a photo or a video of a crime being committed. An organization called DFlock runs a crowdsourced website that has mapped where a little over half of those 80,000 cameras are located. These are just a couple hundred of the cameras that have been mapped near Indianapolis, Indiana. A friend of mine wrote an app for DFlock to make it easier for people to complete the mapping of Flock cameras, and the icon for the app looks like this. Simply download the dflock.me app from the Apple or Google Play Store. Then when you see a Flock or any other surveillance camera, use the app to report its location and the direction it is facing. You will need an email address to log into OpenStreetMap, which is an open-source, collaborative, community-driven project. This is not a sponsored video, but I personally use my pseudo to have multiple burner email addresses so I can sign up for things like OpenStreetMap without giving out my real email address. The dflock.me app is free, and even more importantly, it is safe and secure as the app does not collect any information about you or your phone. The app has the best privacy policy you are ever going to see, as it does not collect any personal information. It is open source, and it does not use any cookies, tracking pixels, or third-party services to track you. As I mentioned earlier, it was written by a friend of mine, and he is as committed to privacy as I am. You may be wondering, what good can this app really do? dflock believes, as do I, that surveillance infrastructure should be transparent. Simply put, we need to watch the watchers. dflock makes surveillance infrastructure visible. By documenting these devices and uploading the data to OpenStreetMap, we create a transparent, searchable record of the surveillance apparatus in our communities. Knowledge is power, and transparency is the first step toward accountability. The second way to fight back against mass surveillance is to use your state's version of the Freedom of Information Act to get a copy of the contracts your city police, county sheriff, and state police have with automated license plate reader companies. The federal law is called the Freedom of Information Act, which was passed by Congress the year I was born. The law only applies to federal agencies, but all 50 states have passed their own version of the law, and it is frequently known as the Open Records Act or the Access to Public Records Act. Flock Safety has grown from a startup company in 2017 to a $7.5 billion company in just 8 years, thanks to all the contracts with local law enforcement. Those contracts are paid for with our tax dollars, and we have both the legal and moral right to see those contracts. We also have the legal and moral right to see the policy and procedure manuals local law enforcement have established to govern the use of automated license plate cameras. I created a template you can download free from my website using this QR code or the link in the description. You can download the Open Records Request template as either a PDF or a Word document. I use this exact letter, other than the dates that I have updated for you, to request license plate reader contracts and the policy and procedure manuals from my local police department and my county sheriff earlier this year. Both agencies honored my request and provided all the documents I requested. When you download the template, you will need to update the information in the top left corner by entering the county you live in, along with the address for the sheriff's office, or changing that to the local police department or your state police. I have also highlighted in the body of the letter the fields you need to update with your information, as this letter cites the Indiana Access to Public Records Act. This letter requests all contracts with automated license plate vendors, as well as all policy and procedure manuals, training manuals, and other documentation related to accessing license plate data, conducting searches, setting alerts, and performing audits on how the data is being used. It is very thorough. It requests that the information be made available as a PDF, and that if anything is redacted, that the agency provide the specific legal basis for the redaction. Indiana law allows government agencies to charge you for copying and searching records, and I offered to pay up to $100 for the information I requested, but neither my local police department nor my sheriff's department asked for any payment for providing the information I requested. Feel free to set whatever limit you are willing to pay if your state agencies charge for copies of the documents you request. If you use your state's open record law to request these documents, please send me a copy of them at businessreform@proton.me when you get them, and especially let me know if you don't get them, or if the contract shows the cameras were operational before the policy and procedure manuals were written. The Institute for Justice has filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Norfolk, Virginia, over their widespread deployment of flock cameras. The lawsuit claims, and I agree, that the cameras constitute an unreasonable, warrantless search of every driver in Norfolk. This case should be headed to trial within the next couple of months, and I believe the Institute for Justice has a very good chance of winning this case, based on the United States Supreme Court decision in the 2018 case of Carpenter v. United States. However, regardless of which side wins in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, the one thing I am certain of is this case will be appealed by the losing side. I am writing a pro bono amicus brief on behalf of the Institute for Justice. My amicus brief will be based on an analysis of the deficiencies in the policy and procedure manuals that I obtained from around the country. I strongly suspect there are many police agencies already using this technology that do not have policies and training in place for officers using this highly invasive technology. Why am I so confident about that? Because that is exactly what the California State Auditor found in the Los Angeles Police Department. Police staff who do not perform functions related to license plate readers had access to the system, and LAPD did not require training an officer before granting them access to the license plate reader system. Now it's time for the third way to legally fight mass surveillance. I believe it is the most effective way, and it is 100% legal, but it is not for the faint of heart. This is the method reserved for the boldest among us. Use your state's open records law to request the Flock vehicle tracking data on your public officials, such as your mayor, city council members, police chief, sheriff, and state legislators, especially the ones that have supported spending your dollars building the surveillance state infrastructure. In the words of Glenn Greenwald, we are supposed to know nearly everything about them. That is why they are called public servants. They, on the other hand, are supposed to know nearly nothing about us. That is why we are called private citizens. And we have a judge's ruling supporting us on this issue. On Thursday, November 6, 2025, a Skagit County Superior Judge in Washington State ruled that the data collected by Flock cameras qualify as public records and are subject to the Public Records Act. This means anyone can request license plate data from all Flock cameras in Washington State. On important matters, I never trust the media to accurately report the facts. So I downloaded the court ruling myself to read exactly what the judge wrote, and it is crystal clear. You would have to be a politician to pretend you don't understand it. Images generated by Flock cameras are public records under Washington state law, and they are not exempt from disclosure under Washington state law. The judge also made it clear that an agency does not have to possess a record for the record to be subject to the Public Records Act. That last statement is very important because of the shell game some police agencies play when they claim they don't have the data from Flock cameras so they can't provide it to anyone. All the data from Flock cameras is stored by Flock on their servers for 30 days, but Flock makes it clear in their contracts that the data belongs to the client, and at any point during those 30 days, the client can download the data and keep it as long as they want. Want to guess what happened immediately after this ruling? Suddenly, a county sheriff in Washington state decided to pull the plug on all his Flock cameras once he realized ordinary citizens could use the data from those cameras to track public officials. This made me laugh out loud because I thought if you weren't doing anything wrong, you didn't have to worry about who was watching you. I guess that only applies to private citizens. Public officials deserve their privacy way more than we do. To be clear, this court ruling is only legally binding in Washington state, but it sets a precedent, so if your local law enforcement claims they can't give you data from Flock cameras because it isn't a public record, you will need to look closely at the wording of your state law, and if you disagree, you can take the issue to court and cite the precedent from Washington state. I especially encourage you to request vehicle driving history for public officials if you live in Connecticut, Missouri, North Carolina, or Florida, because those states have some of the best open record laws in the country, and you probably have a better chance of winning. For the sake of privacy of private citizens, please limit your request to the location history of vehicles belonging to public officials, especially the ones who keep voting to expand the surveillance state. Unless, of course, you live in Pennsylvania, then you might try to get this guy's vehicle location history to help the FBI and Secret Service, who still haven't figured out his motive. If you want to know more about what private citizens have learned from cell phone data about an infamous client list, and where electronic devices in Thomas Crook's home traveled in the months before he assumed room temperature, check out this video. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to attend my first live stream coming up on Monday, December 1st at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is an unscripted review of current events with lots of time for Q&A. These are a few of the videos I am currently working on, so if any of them are of interest to you, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss them when they are posted. And finally, my Brushfires of Freedom Tour has concluded for 2025, but I am working on a much larger tour schedule for 2026. Visit brushfirestour.com to sign up for updates on tour stops as they are confirmed. In addition to the ideas that I shared in this video, I have several other things that I am hoping to collaborate with some of my fellow YouTube privacy advocates on. I would love to strategize and collaborate with them rather than going Leroy Jenkins by myself. One way or another, you will be hearing more about my ideas soon, so stay tuned. What other ideas do you have about how to fight mass surveillance? I can't wait to read your comments.